In this video, we're going to cover downloading the application TankerPro Mobile from the Google Play Store. So first step is to go to your Play Store, click on the icon at the top of the screen in the search menu, type in TankerPro. Should return these three applications. We're looking for the one on the far left with the big white T. You click that application and tap install, and it will install. I've already have that program installed, so it's showing uninstall or open are my options. After this should take anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes to install. After the application is installed, you should be able to find the application by going to your All Applications button in the lower right hand corner. And then if you have multiple screens full of applications, you normally found at the very end. So I scroll to the left 2 times and it'll be the last application, TankerPro Mobile. At this point, you'll be required to provide a login ID and a password. If I back out my numbers, it remembers your login ID and password, so you'll never have to remember these again after you've done it once. But when you first install, it's going to show up like this: user number and password. At this point, you would call dispatch and let them know you've downloaded the application, you're ready to log in, and you need your user ID and password. Okay, so in this case, my user ID was 2355, and my password, I'll enter it. And then touch the login button. From here, you should land on the All Orders page. This is where all your orders will be queued up on the application, and you can now proceed with either accepting or declining each load. So in the morning when you log in, the loads for the day should be assembled on your screen, and you would normally start with the top load and move down the screen selecting loads. First premise here is that you need to accept or decline every load on the screen before doing anything else. And so we're going to go through the accept and decline process. So I'm going to click the button on the right that says accept and decline. I click accept, and you say, well, how about before I accept it or decline it, I might want to take a closer look at this load. I'm going to click the preview button, and from here I can touch the load summary button, which will give me a layout very much like our current freight bill. It has the customer, where you're loading, where you're unloading, the products, resources, etc., PO numbers. And so this is very equivalent to the current freight bill. So by looking at this, you should get a good idea of the load and whether you want to accept it or not. I'm going to hit close here, and I'm going to hit back to orders button on the bottom left. So this brings me back to this screen. So this time I'm going to touch accept or decline, and I'm going to go ahead and accept it. I'm not going to go into preview. I'm just going to hit accept and confirm. Now that one, the only choice on that particular order is to preview the order, but we're going to have to accept or decline the next one. So I'll go down to the next load. Now I could see from this screen that they're both loading at the Will 12-4, and they're both going to N West aisles. So if I accepted the first one and I have enough time to do the second one, I'm going to go ahead and just accept the second one without previewing it. So I click on accept or decline and accept, and then confirm. So that's step one. You must accept or decline all loads on your screen before you begin for the day. This way the dispatch has plenty of time to make other arrangements for that load if you don't have the time or the hours or have some other complication. Okay, at this point, all loads on my screen have been accepted or declined, and now I can go into preview and take a look at them. Or since I know what both of these are, I'm going to touch preview. And I don't need to go back into the load summary. I'm going to hit set active order. So your first step is to always set one active order. And you can only have one order active at a time. Are you sure you want to make sure you have set this as your active order? You say OK. And now this is your primary order entry form. These are all the functions you can execute while on this order. You can change, starting at the top left, you can change the status. Just to the right of that are product details, and that's where you'll enter the bill of lading and the arrive times, unload times. Next to that is the photo button, where you can take a picture of the bill of lading or run ticket, field documents, site, etc. Any number of ways we can take photos. Coming down from there, we go to load summary, which we've talked about before, which is basically a summary of this load. Next to that is the mapping feature, where you can see an overview of the map for this order, and you can also exit out of mapping and actually execute Google Navigate, which will give you turn-by-turn instructions for the load. To the right of map is run ticket. That's where we would enter detailed crude oil run ticket information if we're hauling a crude oil load. Below that, on the far left, is message, and this is an instant messaging system between you and dispatch. To the right of that are the notes section, where you can send one note. It's attached to this order. If there's something specific to this order would like to remember for next time, you can add a note. And then last but not least, the bottom right is events. These are an event is every time you say I've loaded, or I've changed my status from loaded to unloaded, or I've changed my status from received to beginning the load. Any kind of change in status is recorded in the event log. And so now at this point, we're going to go ahead and proceed through this this menu system, selecting the items as they would normally occur. So up to this point, all we've done is set this load as your active load. I'll go ahead and click on my status button, and I'm going to say I've acknowledged that I've got this load. So I'm going to click on driver acknowledged and update. So that just lets dispatch know that you've seen this load and you're beginning to execute this load. Then go back to status again, and I'm going to say I'm actually starting this load. I click on load started and update. Now we'll stop right here and discuss the events tab in the lower right hand corner, what that's all about. And if I touch the events tab, you can see these events that we've just created. So the events are like the life of this order. It was originally called in, and then a driver was assigned, and the driver acknowledged the order, and then the driver started the order. So these are all the events that'll tell you exactly when these events occurred. So normally now we've started the load and we'll arrive at the load point, and so I'm going to change, and after we've loaded the truck, we'll go ahead and change our status and indicate that we've loaded. So I'm going to touch status, loaded, and then the update button. It asks me, would you like to edit product details? And I'll say, okay. This takes us to the product details zone, where we can enter our bill of lading that we see. So I'm going to put in a bill of lading number of 123. I'm going to hit go. It goes over to the tank number, where we can put a tank number in. I'll just put tank 1 for now as a test. And then I hit go, and now I'll put my gross, 200 barrels. Next. Takes me over to the net field, so maybe we had 201 net barrels, and if I can use a decimal, I can put the 0.25. We have fraction, and next. And now we're at our arrive time. Let's say we arrived at this load at 2:30, so it'd be 1400 military time. So we arrived at 1400. We actually started loading at 14:15, 15 minutes later, and we finished at 14:30. So at this point, we would be done with this form. We're not going to enter the unload information yet. We haven't unloaded, so I'm going to hit save and close. Okay, so in the sequence of this order, we have now loaded. We would move toward the loading facility and unload. And at the point, I wanted to show you the map section, where at any point on the order, you can touch the map icon, and you can see where you currently are will be the blue pulsing orb. The first load point will be listed, as well as the unload point is listed. Now, if you want to know more about that facility, you can touch on load 1 here. It says Will 12-14. I'm going to touch on that label, and up will come details. Site information tells me a little bit more about it. It gives me some information that's normally printed on the freight bill. We call that load information. And then furthermore, if you'd like to at this point launch out into Google Navigate, we can launch out to Google Navigate, and it will give us turn-by-turn verbal instructions on how to get to this well. So I'm going to just show you that. I'm going to touch the Navigate button, and now we're jumping out of TankerPro Mobile and launching Google Navigate, and now we have turn-by-turn instructions, navigational instructions to the facility. And there we go. So there's our navigate. Of course, I can pinch this screen with 2 fingers and zoom in, and you can see the route in its entirety. So this is just a way that we leverage Google Navigate from within TankerPro Mobile. I'm going to hit the back arrow about 5 times to exit this application. Back, once, twice, 3 times. Oh, 3 times, and it brings you back to this screen. Okay, so the same thing goes for the unload point. I can touch on it if I want to get some more information about it. Here's the unload information, and I could launch into Navigate. Close. So that's our mapping feature. I'm going to hit back now. So at this point, we'll say we're going to unload the product. We're at the unload facility. We pulled up, we unload the product, and now we're going to change our status to delivered or unloaded. Status, load delivered, update. It's going to ask us again, would you like to edit product details? You'll say okay. This takes us into the unloading information where we can put our, if we have an offload ticket, we could put in the data from it. So say 200 there, and maybe theirs said it was 200.9. This is only if you have an unload ticket. You could enter the gross and net from it here. Next, of course, what time did we arrive to unload? Let's put 1450. We arrived, we finally got to start unloading it at 14:55, and we finished loading and stay at 15:15. At this point, we've entered all of our loading and unloading information, and I can hit save and close. Let's say we want to take a picture of our bill of lading now, so I'm going to now use the photo button, touch photo. It's going to say I'll touch the take photo blue button, and now it says we have to have a freight bill number at this point. Up till now, it didn't require a freight bill number. Now we have to have it. Our imaging system stores all images by the freight bill number. So I'm going to put my freight bill number in. Select my image type, and we have all these different types of images we could be taking a picture of: a bill of lading, a freight bill, a job safety analysis, the site, or any other field document. So I'm going to say I'm doing a bill of lading. The bill of lading number that we typed in already on the product screen forwards into this screen. So now we can just click the button, take photo. It comes up on your screen. Let's see if I can get a clear spot here. We would want to, that cable's in the way, but that's all right. I'm going to get up to about here and take a photo. Now at this point, we have a choice to either retry if it's blurry or say okay if it's legible. I say it's okay, so I hit okay. Now I want to show you, if I hit back and come back to the main screen, I can always touch photo and go back and look at any photos I've taken. Here it is on my screen as a thumbnail, and I can touch it. It'll expand up. I can see it. So you'll always be able to see all the images at any time that you have taken associated with this load. Okay, so far we've talked about status changes, we've added product details, we've taken a photo, we've looked at the load summary. That I'll touch it again. That's just basically like the freight bill, a printout of the data from the freight bill. Close that. We've talked about mapping, where you can see an overview of the whole load on a map, or you can touch on one of the unload or load facility and launch Google Navigate to actually get turn-by-turn instructions. Run ticket information, I'll touch it now. This is where we would enter our information associated with this load. If it's a crude oil load, the very first toggle here is whether it's a gauged or a meter load. If it's gauge, of course, we have opening gauge and a closing gauge, as well as all the other information that's necessary. If it's a meter, then we have a meter factor, a first meter reading, and a second meter reading. So that's where we'd enter our meter ticket, run ticket information. You could also print this if necessary by clicking this blue button to the far right edge. I'm going to hit save and close there. Okay, so we've talked about run ticket. Now come around to messaging. Messaging is a real-time, active, instant messaging system between yourself and dispatch. And if, for example, if you're running from a specific terminal, say the Roosevelt terminal, you would be sending a message. Anytime I type a message here, if I say test message, this message goes between you and everybody in Roosevelt dispatch. And so I'll just hit send with the send button here, and instantly they'll get that message in dispatch and they can reply to your message. You can also send the message urgent. So if I type a message, I'm going to put test urgent message. Okay, instead of touching the send button, I'm going to the right of that's a little triangle with an exclamation point. Click on that and it will send the message as urgent, and it has a little red indicator. So this is a way you can receive messages, send and receive messages to dispatch all day long using TankerPro Mobile. I'm going to close the message screen because you can get to this message screen by touching message, or when you have a new message coming back from dispatch, you'll see it show up in the upper right hand corner where it says 0 up here. I touched the 0. These are notifications. I'm going to go ahead and send a message back to the system from dispatch so that you can see how a message would appear on this screen. So at this point, I'm going to go back over to TankerPro for 1 second, and we are going to send a message to this driver. So the dispatcher double clicks on the driver, and I can say, what is it you need? And you can see the response come back. And as you can see now, I'll go back to the application. You can see that we have a 1 in the upper right hand corner, the notification area, and if I touch that 1, it'll have the message there. I can touch on that message and it goes right into the messaging section of the program. Okay, so that's messaging. You see that now when I come back to the full screen, I have only 1 active order and 1 preview. So I'm going to touch on active to go back to my active screen. Okay, so we've come through all the buttons except for notes and events. So I'm going to touch on notes. Notes, this is where if there was a message you wanted to leave regarding this type of a load, you say maybe don't forget to lock the gate and call Joe when you're done. Anyway, these are notes that are attached to this order permanently. Maybe there's something about the miles were wrong, or we were rating it wrong, or we don't have enough miles, whatever it may be, you can add notes that are attached to the order and save and close. Okay, and we've looked at events. I'll go into it again. Events, you can now see the last few events. It shows that the load was delivered and picture was taken and updated by driver. So these are the life story of this order, or in the events tab. Okay, on this particular order, all we have left to do is to take it to complete. So I hit status, and when maybe I drove back to the terminal, maybe I'm ending it at the delivery point and starting a new order. Either way, you still want to complete the load. So I click on the status button and touch load completed or rejected. If I were to reject this load, I'd have to give it an explanation. And I'm going to hit update now. And now it puts us back on our all order screen, and you notice we only have 1 order left on the screen. The other one automatically disappears when it's been completed. So let's go through this process rather quickly on 1 more load. I'm going to preview this load. I've seen it. I'm going to look at load summary. Yeah, this looks good. I'm going to pull this load, so I'm going to set it as my active order. Step 1, set it as your active order. And you confirm that. And now that it's my active order, whether I log in or if I log out, I'll always be brought to this screen. Let's say in the normal course of a day, you'd want to log in the morning and only log out at the very end of the day. But for whatever reason, well, let's say we wanted to log out. I touched the triple bars at the top. This is called a drawer. Touch the triple bars at the top left, and I can click log out, and I'm logged out of the program. But you'll notice it remembered my username and my password. So when my user number and password, and now I can just simply touch login, and it will take me right back into my active order, and I'm ready to go with this active order. So once again, first thing we'd want to do is change the status to load started. I'm starting this load. Hit update. Okay. The load has been started. We drive to the loading facility, or maybe we want to get some map help to the loading facility. So let's go to the map. The blue dot is where we're at currently, and I can touch on the load point, and then I could hit the navigate button, and it will give me turn-by-turn instructions to that load point. I won't do that right now, but you can use this map and navigate using Google Navigate. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close the map by pressing the back button. Okay, so now we've arrived at the loading facility and we loaded the product. So now I'm going to change my status to loaded, update. Would you like to edit product details? We'll say okay. This is where we're going to put in our bill of lading. Let's say the bill of lading is 345. Tank number was 2. Gross 200. Next. net, let's say it's 200.1, and we arrived at, let's say, 1400. We actually were able to start unloading 15 minutes later at 1415, and we finished 15 minutes after that at 1430. Save and close. So now we've arrived at the load facility. We've loaded and we've changed our status. We've entered our product details. We continue. Oh, at this point, let's stop. Let's take a picture. I'm going to skip that. Normally, this is the flow. We'd want to take a picture of our bill of lading. This is all important to the customer. So I'm going to touch the photo button. I'm going to take a photo. I have to put my freight bill number in. So at this point, you needed a freight bill number. Select the image type, bill of lading, and it brought over the 345. We've already entered that on the product details, so I don't have to enter the bill of lading number. I can just take the photo. Once again, get up nice and high, focus, boom, take the picture, looks clear, I hit OK, and now I have my photo, and I'll hit back. Now I proceed down the road, get to the unload facility, and change my status to load delivered. It's going to prompt me to go enter my details. I say OK. Okay, so now if we have an unload ticket, maybe we don't have one, but if we do, we'll put in the data from it. 200 there, 201 net, and we arrived, let's say, at 1530. Finally got to unload at 1545, and we finished at 1600. Now I've completed adding my product details. I'll hit save and close. Either drive back to the terminal, or I can end this load here and begin another load. Let's say I drive back to the terminal. It's the end of the day. I change the status. I've actually finally completed this load, and I'll hit update. And now you see we have no more orders on the screen because you'll have to call dispatch and say, please send me a dispatch. I've completed all the loads on my screen. So that concludes our summary of TankerPro Mobile, and hope you enjoyed it. Hope you like using the program. I hope it makes your life easier and helps us be more profitable and be a better business in the long haul.